I'll use that to transition here. I'm with First Class Fatherhood. What's the hardest part about being a dad, and what's the easiest part about being a dad?
The hardest part about being a dad, I think, is sacrificing. You know, you have to be able to put others first. You got to put your wife first, and then the children as well. You might want to do something, go to bed early, or go work out, or prioritize something else. But if your children need you, then you should obviously be there. So I think the sacrifice part, but I am grateful for that, because through the sacrifice, I'm growing to be a less selfish person and a better man. The best part about being a dad, I think, is just seeing how loving children can be, and how they don't get caught up in a lot of the negative things going on around them. They can be very grateful and very thankful, and they just love you, and their love is very pure, and there's something very beautiful about children, and Christ talks about that all the time in the Gospels.
What a wonderful answer. Of course, Alec would go there and ask the right questions. Joining me now, the great Alec Lace, host of the First Class Fatherhood podcast, which I adore. Alec, it's crazy to me as a father how many men today don't want to be a father. And I understand there's a laundry list of reasons, and not pointing fingers at them, but knowing how wonderful it is, it's nuts to me that all men don't want to do it.
Yeah, Jesse, and thanks for having me here. It's truly sad. And I know there was a recent poll that came out that showed that married couples, married people, the people of faith feel far more fulfilled in their life than people who aren't married and who don't have a faith that they follow. And I think that just makes sense. And it is sad to see so many of our young people have been turned away from what's the greatest gift in life. And that is really starting your own family, starting your own legacy. After I talk to all of these guys, that's the constant message that you always hear routinely from these guys. They accomplish this, they accomplish that, but it's really their children and the legacy that they're leaving behind, which is the most important thing. And it's sad. And we got to revive the youth in this country to really focus on what's important, and that is family and having children.
Why, in your opinion, don't men desire that now? That used to be kind of a base desire, not just in America, throughout societies in the history of the world. You started a family, you find a woman, you make some babies with her. Why don't American men in 2024 want that as much as men have in the past?
I think, Jesse, it's really because they've been sold an illusion. They've been sold that all these other things are going to bring you this fulfillment in life. And so we've been sold a bill of lies that you should chase the career, you should make all the money is more important than anything else. The material gains are better than your family gains. We've been scared away. Children cost too much. They'll stop you from having all the social life that you want to have. You won't be able to travel. There's so much doom and gloom. And these are the messages, Jesse, that I constantly was hearing before I launched First Class Fatherhood, because I kept hearing the young men talking about this. And I would say, you've got this backwards. You think having kids costs you a lot of money. Wait till you get hit with the bill when you're 60 years of age and you never had any kids. Because when you talk to guys later in life, 60 years plus, I have a lot of them. I work for the railroad. I got a lot of guys, railroad guys that retired 60 years of age. They have no family. They have no kids. And they regret the fact that back in the day, they didn't get married. They didn't start that family. And it's something that you're truly missing out on. And the cost is so much greater for not starting the family. But also, too, I try to tell the young guys, you have this fear that kids cost a lot of money. But you don't realize that they become like these little money makers for you. They light you a fire. They give you an incentive to go out and make more money. They incite you to become the best version of yourself, to go out there and be a hustler, to go bring home the bacon for the family. And they really ignite that spark in you like nothing else can on the planet.
Alec, speaking of cost, the cost to our society of masculine men not being in the home is killing us. It has such far-reaching consequences that men are running out on their families, or the ones that stay home, many of them have more estrogen than they do testosterone. It's a big deal.
It's the biggest deal, Jesse. It's the number one social issue we have going on in our society. We are living in a fatherless, a godless, and a lawless society, and that is the trifecta that's crippling the country. So you don't have the father in the home. You don't have that discipline portion that comes with that, but there's so much more to it than that. And we're seeing that in every facet of our society. We talk about all these other things that need to happen, but if we don't get dads back into the home, if we don't bring some God back into our society, if we don't get law back on the street, we don't stand a chance in this country. And a lot of single moms always reach out and they'll say like, I've been able to raise my children, my boys, I raised them without a father in the home and they turned out okay. So, you're wrong. And I usually try to counter that by saying, my grandfather smoked cigarettes up until he was like 89 years old and never had a health problem. But that doesn't mean it's what we should do. There's outliers to this problem, and there are single moms that are out there doing miracles. But that's not what we're striving for here. That's not what we want to be the normal in our society. We want families in this country. We want fathers in the home, mothers in the home, and we want that family unit that they've been trying, and they have successfully, broken apart. And you can't look at any successful civilization throughout history that has thrived when the nuclear family has fallen apart. You can even look at Rome, the fall of Rome. You can point to like 8, 10 different things, but at the onset of that falling of Rome was the breakdown of the nuclear family, and we're seeing it here in America now, and it's frightening if we don't get it turned around.
No, it is. It's majorly frightening. Alec, okay, so there's a bunch of new fathers watching the show. I love that young families watch the show, and they want to make sure their boys don't become snowflakes, don't become little sissies. But you don't want to beat them. What do you do? How does a dad make sure his boy grows up to be a man's man, the type of guy who sees a burning building and runs in instead of the other way?
I think the only way you can do that, Jesse, is by your example. I don't think there's any other way that it's possible for that to happen. You have got to be the man of the house. You've got to be the one that's showing that you can handle your responsibilities, that you take ownership for your mistakes. It's the way that you're going to live your life, is how that your children are going to walk in your footsteps. They're going to mimic you, and they don't care so much about what you say. They care about what they're seeing you do. So constantly try to be that person. And listen, we see that through church. If you're a dad that brings your kid to church, the chances of that kid going to church when he grows up are far greater than if it's just a mom bringing the child to church. The father's impact on the child is it's so indescribable in so many different ways. But you have to be the guy that not only goes to work, but it's the way that you treat your wife. It's the way that you treat the people around you, and also the way that you don't take no crap from nobody either. You're not somebody that's going to be walked on, not somebody that's going to be stepped on. Your children have to see you in those roles. And you have to be able to do these things with your kids. You got to be involved. You got to spend the time. Like I got 4 kids. So one of the most important things I can do is spend individual time with each one of these kids, because for them, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a walk to the bodega, a drive to the store, that 5 minutes, 10 minutes is the whole world for them. It makes the whole day. And so you have to make sure that you're spending that one-on-one time, and you have to give them a good example, to live up to. You have to make sure that they see you doing things like holding the door open for your wife, or holding the door open for somebody at Dunkin' Donuts, and then not 5 minutes later be in the car full of road rage, cursing and screaming because some guy cut you off. You got to be under control. You got to be disciplined. You got to take care of yourself first if you want your kids to follow in your footsteps. So work harder on yourself than you do on your job, and your kids will follow in that footstep.
Well, I want to encourage everybody with that one-on-one time as well. Had another morning the other morning, took my oldest son, just me and him, to Waffle House, some waffles and eggs. You made his entire day. All right, Alec, I'm going to play this real quick before I let you go. You were obviously interviewing Harrison Butker. We played it. And how outspoken he was. And so many players are now about their faith. I really, really love it. Here it was.
We see a lot of players coming into the league being very bold in their faith. How important is it that we continue to see players come into this league with this platform and profess their faith?
I think it's very important, because it's easy when you do get success to forget what got you there. And at the end of the day, everything we receive is through God's grace, and we should be grateful and thankful for that, and give him the glory for that, and realize that it's not our... we got to take our pride and our ego out of it, because a lot of times we think, oh, we're so strong, we're so good, we can do anything we're capable of, but God can take all of that away in the snap of a finger.
Well said. Good luck on Sunday.
Alec, I'm so inspired by this new generation of players speaking out like this. Is wonderful.
It's important. We see guys like the C.J. Stroud, who got Rookie of the Year. We've seen that guy in Miami, Tua, Tagovailoa, however you say his last name. You see guys coming into league. They're not afraid to profess their faith, and it's the first thing they do. And sometimes you notice the networks will cut that piece out, because that's the last thing they want to see. But one of the key factors in this Super Bowl was not the Travis Kelce and the Taylor Swift angle. It was the faith angle, the fact that both starting quarterbacks are men of faith, and guys that take a knee and pray to God, and they give all the glory to God, both Brock Purdy and Patrick Mahomes. And I think that is so necessary for the youth in this country to see that, because let's face it, we are running out of positive male role models in this country for our young men to look up to. And when you can have guys with that kind of platform, whether you hate the NFL or not, the NFL's got one of the biggest platforms in this country. And when you have guys that are on there professing their faith, it matters. You better believe it matters. And kids are watching. and they are taking note. And on Harrison Buckner, this is the third Super Bowl that I've had a chance. I always, when he's there, this is the third time, I go right to him. He's a Catholic guy. I know he's a good father. He always brings a good message. But so many of the other guys there, they do as well. And for me, just on a personal note, Jesse, I'm a recovering alcoholic, recovering addict, recovering gambling maniac, okay? And I've been 6 years clean, and this Super Bowl was in Las Vegas. So for me to spend some time in Vegas, in Sin City, surrounded by all the things I used to be a slave to, and not be tempted, not feel like I had any kind of pull or desire to take part in any of these things that used to control my life is a blessing to God. And also on a side note from that too, I was once arrested and given a lifetime ban from Giants football stadium here in New Jersey, and turn it around. This is the 6th time the NFL has invited me to come to the Super Bowl to interview the players about fatherhood, family, and faith. That's the kind of turnaround God has made in my life, and I know it can for anybody else out there struggling with addiction.